Consider it. Yes. You guys, I feel like every time I start these conversations with these Mom Talk Autism ladies, I'm laughing before I press record and it rolls into this intro. Welcome to the Inchstones podcast. I have Tash Dillmon here, another one of the MTA Mom Talk Autism moms, about to share and give witness to her journey as an autism mom. And the laughter that you just heard is because there is such a beautiful polarity in this journey that you have to be able to laugh through it. You have to be able to cry through it. You have to be able to have foundational support and however that looks like and works best for your family. And Tash is here to give a more clear expression of her journey as Jack's mom and an autism parent, and really what foundation that looks like to her. Tash Dillmon, thank you so much for being here today on Inchstones.
Thanks for having me. I love this. I love how you say my name. It's so East Coast. Tash. I feel like you're like my.
I've never heard that about myself.
My people, right? Like I'm on the West Coast, but I should have been I should have been raised on the East Coast. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's so funny. Yes, Tash.
Yeah, Tash.
Yes, I'm firmly planted in that. All right, it's day one.
Yeah,
you just got a diagnosis for Jack.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're feeling as an autism mom, newly minted autism mom.
I was feeling relief. I'm not your typical.
What?
I knew that that there was something. I knew that, I didn't know for sure that it was autism because autism wasn't like a huge part of my life. I didn't have any friends who had autistic kids, but I knew that there was something different, and that word had been floated around a little bit. And so it came as no surprise to me. Very different story for my husband. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was, there was some sadness, there was some grief around it, but also there was some relief and just like, okay, we have a name, we have an answer. Now what do we do? Let's, get to work or whatever.
So you didn't have there wasn't like a stopgap for you. Like this gave you, that diagnosis went, now we've got a path.
Right.
Yeah.
And, my journey is a little bit different in the sense that, Jack was a twin. They were born early. They were born with twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. Jameson ended up passing away. So we had a rough go from essentially finding out that we were pregnant with twins, right? And that they were identical, et cetera. So yeah, so my path's different in that way, where I was a lot more accepting because I was already in grief. Yeah. I was already in grief from the loss of Jack's twin brother,
Oh my gosh, Yeah.
So yeah, I again, it definitely doesn't take away that it wasn't still hard and it was sad. And I was like, okay, there's going to be the struggles, but I was ready to dig in, and we were already digging in.
You were already digging in so many different ways, like on an emotional bucket standpoint. Those realities that you were facing head on, like you said, you felt relief that there was a path forward. What were those realities that continued to just reveal itself even as that path you were on and you were conscious and moving forward? What did that feel like for you, physically, emotionally, when things like the therapies began, the constant observations and evaluations that you didn't know what you didn't know, but were happening? What did that feel like to you aside from relief?
Yeah. I mean, it was hard. My husband's a first responder. He's a fire captain in a local department. And so there was a lot on me. I had already left my career, my massage career, 15 years, to stay home because before we had the diagnosis, we were already in therapies and, had, speech delay, all of that. So I was kind of seeing what the writing on the wall was going to be. I wasn't going to be going back to work anytime soon. I was toting around, a toddler and a baby, essentially. My typical kid and then Jack are only 21 months apart. So we were in it in that sense. This was like, okay, this is my new it. I'm a chauffeur to therapies, and
you wear like the hat that you wear sometimes, like it's so immediate that you don't even realize that you've switched hats.
Yeah.
And you just go, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize that is becoming baked into your identity, and you don't even realize that you did consciously choose it, but there's a lot of like morphing that goes on, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because I was also, trying to find my identity through, I was doing an MLM, I was selling skincare, and which I'm like so grateful for. That's what provided me to be able to stay home, which, does not happen for a lot of people in their child's diagnosis journey. But at the same time, I was like, how do I navigate, keeping who I am as this person and like bringing something to the table, but then also like I'm have this new hat of I'm an autism mom and I'm going, in and out of therapies and, getting him into the school district on an IEP, just all of the things. It was, again, you're just in go mode. I feel like,
Yeah.
you,
You know,
I'm not going to sink. So
I don't I'm going to keep moving.
I'm going to
I
keep
think
moving. I'm keep treading water,
right. And that, being on that road so solidly and navigating it alongside of a typically developing sibling, I think is something that a lot of women, mothers, caregivers, and parents are doing. They're already
hmm
doing it. And I
Right.
think that it becomes this, like, unfortunately, fortunately, whatever the case is, there's then these extra silos that added to the plates or to the foundation of your life. And you don't realize how much energy each of those silos then takes up. Have tons of typical parents of only typical children who they're exhausted too, and they're wiped. And parenthood is wild and exhausting. Yet there's these added silos that you realize that not for anything more than what the needs of your child deserve become an expenditure that you don't realize that your body can do. Now, I'm not saying it's right, but you realize that the capacity that you have can grow,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's kind of like that. Like, oh, I've never been a runner. Trust me,
Yeah,
girl, anybody can become a runner. You know what I mean?
right.
We just,
That's
we
right.
open up those silos and we do it, and we go for it.
I I can tell just from, the way that you express yourself and how you present that the autism mom hat that you put on. My read on this is that you were like, "Yep, this is it. I'm adding it to my bag of tricks and we're going to go." I think that's not the norm. I think there's a lot of identity shifting that happens to mothers that, and I 100% am one of them. You know, Sarah when Millie was diagnosed, let's say I was 30, 33 at the time. Like, I want to look at her and go, buckle up, buttercup. Like, everything that you built around this version of Sarah, the white picket fence life outside of New York City, you better sit the F down
Yeah.
because it's going to shut you down. I wish so much that I could have implanted your brain and mindset back onto me then, and I think that a lot of women do go through what I went through, which is this massive transformation. What do you think? What do you think that by just sort of living it, did it free you? Did it feel like it freed you because you just kept moving through that identity?
It did for 2 years. And then I hit rock bottom.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what
So
was
I'm
and
like
why?
riding a high.
How?
Woo, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I hit my rock bottom. It was probably just shy of 2 years into the diagnosis. And I think it all just came crashing down for me. I think I had never fully dealt with the loss of Jameson. I was going through the motions of it, but I wasn't really processing it. Right. And then Jack's diagnosis with it, just all of it together. And I didn't want to live. Honest, just
Yeah.
raw truth. I didn't want to live. I looked at my husband and I said, I am feeling like I want to commit suicide.
Yep. Yep.
And it's so hard to even like think about that. Like it makes me want to cry a little bit because those emotions were valid, right? They were it, but also too, I had this really great life. I had this great husband. I have these great children. I have this great area that we live in. Jack's having the supports. Everything was good, but it just wasn't. It just
Well, I
wasn't
think
good.
that, the one thing that you can't outrun is being human. Like, in all of these processes, like, I'm a huge fan of that Matthew
Ooh,
McConaughey
girl.
book, Green Light, right? And one of the parts in the book, he said, and I quote this all the time. He literally said, I looked in the mirror and went, McConaughey, the only person you can't run away from is yourself.
Oh,
And I think that all the time is that you can't outrun being human. And even as adaptive and as evolutionary conscious we can be in a role as a mother to neurodiverse kids, you can't outrun your freaking brain.
yeah.
And that is something that I have a really hard time with that
I don't
because
sit well in that either.
I don't either, because I too have had moments where I'm like, I need a one-way ticket out of here.
Yeah.
I want my ticket out of here and everyone will be okay if I'm
Yeah.
not here.
Yes.
And that was, obviously that pulls you back in, but that is the human side to the capacity issue that I think is actually one of the greatest thing about social media is that we can talk about this and amplify that reality because you can't outrun freaking hard this is on your psyche.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's like, that was the funny thing to me too, is that I've been dealing with that psyche
Yes.
my whole life.
Totally.
I've struggled with depression my whole
Yes.
life. I have in my early, youth tried to commit
Yes.
suicide and
Yep.
had suicidal idolizations and all of that. And so it was like, what did I think? I'm a big girl now and I've got it all together. So I can just muster through this and everything will be fine. And it's like, no, you can't outrun.
Do you think though, I've been doing like a deep dive on this and Gina and I actually talked about this. I said, I wish I could just clone myself and one of me can go back and get a PhD in evolutionary biology to learn about why it is how I am, right? Like I want to study myself. Like I want myself to learn and study myself so that I can help myself from a PhD level go, Sarah, this is what's happening. This is a boy and a girl, both have the same diagnosis and like do that, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? Because I think this is part of that. What do you think that you experienced or that I experienced or any person, but specifically autism moms and caregivers, that we forget how conditioned we became to expectations on things that never were real? Like,
Yeah.
what did
Yeah.
I learn from being born in 1983 till now that made me so convinced that if I just lived and worked hard, that it would just all work out? Like, what did that mean?
Nothing, because
Why?
we're all still living through our trauma from our childhood.
But why is that? Like, because you sit in this place too, where you're self-reflective and you attack, tackle things as they come, and it feels like all of that should just then broaden the path of like everything's going to work out. But why? What is this conscious conditioning or unconscious conditioning that we all seem to think we're better than?
Yes.
Like,
And that's just it. I think we, we sit in this like, oh, I've got this. You know what I mean? We are a generation of, we've got this. You know what I mean? Because that was the only option we had, right? We didn't get to start our period at school and mom came and picked us up, right? No, you just dealt with it, right? Or like if you were sick, you didn't get to stay home from school because generally both your parents worked, right? So you had to be like having diarrhea and vomiting everywhere, I guess, So it
you
is
asked the girl
just
behind you in class that you knew that she had a tampon in her front house because she knew her mom packed it or something.
And you tied somebody's sweater around your waist, But I think that being so good, also, it has taught us to not really sit deep in those emotions.
Yeah.
Like to really, really digest them, and to be okay with the icky feelings,
Yeah.
and not just say we're okay.
Well, that's like the polarity.
It's fine.
That's what like I love, like, Glennon Doyle's line, like we can do hard things and the next right thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the complexity in that is that by constantly moving, there isn't the ability to sit still. And I don't know what the right answer is. I think that nuance and complexity in all of our individual unique lives takes form how it takes form. So it's almost like in some capacity it is keep moving and do the next right thing. And sometimes the hard thing is actually just to slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, every day I think, and slowing down too is, then doing that check of like, my relationship to other people, my relationship to Jack. How am I handling him? My relationship to Sloan, his typical sister. How am I handling her? My relationship to their dad, Tyler, and then how are we communicating that then we are showing, are we connected as this team? And are we really in this together, or are we just,
just floating?
Are we just parts moving together, simultaneously? Yeah.
Before we pressed record, I said, what's the one thing you really want to get across? And you said, I want to talk about how we got through this together.
Yeah. 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 Nothing like losing a death of a child to make your marriage either break or.
You hit on me. Like, you're such a dark humor person. Like, I am like, I'm sorry you have to laugh about this. And I'm like, I literally.
Do you know what? If you want your marriage to stay together, then just lose a kid. Then everything will be fine.
Like nothing like wiping your 11-year-old desk to really get the day going and smelling shit in the morning like that. Like, yeah. Like, it's
Absolutely.
just so, it's just, yeah.
Absolutely.
So when did you realize that that might have been your superpower or continues to be in all of this?
Yeah, I think, Tyler and my husband and I we had rocky beginning, right? Like we were like, oh, we're all kinds of effed up. Like maybe we shouldn't get married, but we worked through it. We were doing marriage counseling before we even got married because we were
Yep.
that like,
Well, aware. It's a
crazy
beautiful.
and aware. So I think having that foundation and knowing how much we loved each other and then truly, honestly, dark humor aside, losing Jameson it rocked both of us to our core, in a very similar way and in a very different way, right? He's the dad, I'm the mom. And the fact that, we still have this living child, the twin brother, we still have Jack. And so like forcing us to push forward for him. It's just a very different dynamic. And again, this probably would have broke a lot of people. You see it happen all the time. But for Tyler and I, it was just like, okay, this is, we're in this for life. You know what I mean? We have this bond that is unbreakable, unshakable, because we have such a love, such a depth for this human that we created that this is not where our story ends,
Right.
and we go our separate ways. So that was that first little, I guess, catalyst. And then Jack, going through his first year and us realizing something was different. And then, definitely into that 18-month mark. And it was like, okay, pediatrician was like, yeah, I wanted to wait a little bit, and then that was what was really hard for Tyler. So he was my strength during, in the beginning with Jameson. And then I was able to turn that for him, with Jack. And although we were both in it and we both had our different feelings and whatever, we were each other's rocks at different time.
Right. And that's the beautiful polarity of men and women, I think, in a truly loving relationship is that there is the dynamic of like the yin and the yang through it
Yes.
all. And
Yeah.
it doesn't take away the pain at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But what it does is there's like I firmly believe there's like a divine sacred component to it that you actually can't run away from if you lean so deeply into it. And it sounds like you and Tyler did that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did, and then again, fast forward to that, 2 years into Jack's diagnosis. And I just, I hit rock bottom and he just was like, no, this is not it. This is not the end of our story. This
Nope.
is not the end of
Nope.
you. We are strong, and then we got through that. And yeah,
What about now? So, you hit on the feelings of relief. You've talked about like the transformative nature of obviously losing a child through this. So there's a lot of the grief alongside movement and personal, motherly advocacy. Where do you feel like you are now? Like when you think about yourself and do you give yourself the same credit now? Or do you feel like that even your own sense of self is so different that you don't need that validation anymore? You're like, yeah, this is actually who I am. Has that changed?
so yeah, I do. I think that I will pat myself on the
Yeah.
back. I've done a lot of work, and for me, like a big pivotal point of like finding Christ and coming to Christ and all of that changed who I was as a person. So you want to talk about going deep and changing a level
Okay.
of how you see yourself and how you then how you see yourself react to others, etc. Like that was a huge change for me. And I think that was that pivot where I realized, you know what? This is all going to be okay. It's
It is.
all going to be okay. We are all just this work in process. Each one of us is like perfectly and wonderfully made, even with all of our cracks and whatever. But we're all supposed to be who we each are in ourselves, whether that's neurotypical, neurodivergent, a mom who has a neurodivergent kid, or parents who got their child got a cancer diagnosis, whatever it might be. This is all just our story, and we get to choose how we're going to live it. Are we going to sit in, sadness? There's always going to be the sadness. We have sad days, we have happy days, we have everything in between. But like, what are we ultimately going to choose as our anthem, right?
Yeah.
What's our,
Yeah.
what are we
The
going to?
pulses through in every moment, whether it's hard, joyful, beautiful. What is the pulse? What
Yeah.
is the line? What is the thread? Did you ever wake up? Because I admit that I did. did you ever wake up or have you ever woken up going, this is really unfair?
It's really unfair that I lost a child when I was sitting in a NICU with women that should not have had babies. Their babies should not have, this sounds horrible, but their babies should not have made it. Mine should have. Had no right being a mother.
That's right.
So the unfair was right away, and yes, there still are the moments of the, watching other people have, God, even watching my own life with Sloan, and her having things be so much easier, and I'm like, this is just not fair for, why does she get this, but Jack doesn't, and
I sometimes look at my typical oldest, I'm like, I live in Jersey. I'm like, do you realize how lucky you are you live from the beach growing up? I grew up in landlocked Pittsburgh, okay? This whole idea where you just like, I'm going to go down to the beach for the day. I'm like, who the F are you?
Yeah.
So, yes.
We got some entitled generations, don't we?
That's your point about like Sloan. You're like, it really is funny. You're like, wait a second. Like, yeah.
And so I still sit in that very much so, but I don't sit in it to a detriment. I don't sit in it to a degree of poor me or like we're victims. I'm not that person. I still have that 82 mentality, right? I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps and just deal with it, So when it comes to that, I try to pause and say, what does Jack have that's so great?
Yeah.
Yes, he has this diagnosis and it causes him to have actually an intellectual disability. He is, a sixth grader at a second grade level. He still speaks in scripting. I mean, he implements the right things, but he, everything that comes out of his brain is scripted from some sort of a movie or something, I wish he had it where he could easily make and meet friends. I wish he didn't have whatever. I can go down the list. It's unfair. It's unfair. But, at the end of the day, there's lots of things that are unfair in this life. And we all realize that. We sit in that every day with just the world around us and what's going on. It absolutely is unfair. And so we're going to choose the Dillies. We're going to choose to just find the good and focus on the positive and then deal with the hard when it comes.
What is the best thing? What has been the most expansive thing for you about being Jack's mom and living as an autism mom? The best thing, not the hardest best, but like really the best thing.
I think just like who he is. He has changed me so much as a person, right? And he's just so happy. He's just so happy.
I know.
Yeah, he has struggles and he has hard days and all of that, but like he's just honestly happy and he just really loves other people. He has he even calls me out. He calls me out when I say something sideways about somebody, and he was like, "Mom, that's not very nice. That probably would hurt that, and I'm like, he's just so pure, and I'm like, and then it cracks me up when I think about all the things that like, oh, they don't know how to show emotion and they don't. And I'm like, no, oh my God, he's like the most emotional person.
Oh, I know. That's one of the things I hope to see changed in our lifetime on the larger scale is this whole idea of like, they're not emotional or they're lacking emotion. I actually think it's the complete opposite. Like actually to an extreme. I mean, my son, Mac, he cries so deeply over a couple cartoons like Super Y or Daniel Tiger or Elmo or something. It is like a full his lip quivers when, Prince Tuesday falls off the slide or something like that. And he feels so deeply. And I wish I've never been able to catch it because it's on film or anything to share, but the depth with which these kids feel is so damn powerful that it actually, I think it's like empathy in the most raw form. Like you can't
in the most raw form and the most like, again, for me, like I'm a godly person. I love Jesus, so he to me is he is like a form of like Jesus, like that. Like I love these people unconditionally. I don't care who they are, what they've done, where, whatever, like, it's like,
it taps in. It's
such
so
a
pure.
deep.
I think it's aligned so much too with because they are like that and because they have the ability as our children or our child to just be that. They don't know how to be anything else but themselves, right?
Right.
So that requires such a powerful presence as us as their mom because of how their lives are expressed through their bodies and minds. it forces us into the present so that we actually notice the things that we're talking about. Like, I don't know if I can, actually, no, I cannot say, I cannot say this with my oldest. My first daughter's typical. The other two came second and third. I don't think I noticed my oldest daughter's empathy, which she likely had, and she likely showed me as a 2.5-year-old, like I do her siblings.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I probably wasn't sitting in enough noticing and
Yes.
being in the now. I wasn't. I know I wasn't. Like,
Yeah.
I could never describe her empathy in the same way, because there was such a cacophony of other things she was doing that sadly I probably missed some of those bigger ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay though.
Yeah,
That's okay.
it's totally okay.
And because
Because
like look at who she is now and who she is to,
percent
her siblings and all of that. But
right.
I hear that. I see that, I feel that on a deep
Yeah, and
level.
when you get to witness it, and like you said, when there's a moment where they say something or they exhibit something or they even behaviorally show something, that power of that, our ability to stay present to that, is what I think fuels
Is
me to even do this work. Is that I do believe that these kids all have that power in them, because they know they don't know another way.
yeah.
Like, they
Yeah.
genuinely don't know another way
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be.
And see, and that's what to me is the greatest thing, right? That they have changed who we are as people, who and they are continuing to change who we are as people and how we see things and how we navigate life and how we deal and interact with other humans, whether they're typical or divergent or whatever they are, just to simply be and know that everybody is maybe going through something, or they have something that we just don't know. Yeah. So good.
Well, Tash, I'm just so thankful for you to share all this on the podcast, and also these deep dives one-on-one, as I said before we press record, are so important for my mission, because I really genuinely, I can't help but, that's my soul's purpose, is to share the actual lived experience of what mothers are possible, what we are living, what the reality is, and what transformation can happen as you live through this. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be guttural and joyful and all the things. And
All
I
the
think
things.
this conversation illuminates that so beautifully. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me on and thank you for what you do. Oh my gosh, girl. We are just like people like you, the fighters,
People like all of us, man.
the
You can't not do it.
feisty East Coasters.
Feisty exennials, right? It's
That's
that
right.
83. Listen, I don't know. God must have sprinkled something special on those years. My mom actually last weekend said it. She goes, I knew that you were always like this, but it's really apparent as you
Oh
become.
my gosh. Every time I see a reel come through, I'm like, that's right.
Yep. Yep. Anyways. All right. Tash Dillmon, thank you again for being here today on the
Yes.
Inchstones
Thanks for
podcast.
having
And
me.
everyone will be linking Tash's work through the Moms Talk Autism podcast as well on the episode summary. And thank you for being here today on Inchstones.
Thank you.